You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Hey everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Digging In Podcast. I'm your host, Kinto Kelly, helping you get those questions answered to and through retirement. Today, I am backed by the man, the myth, and the legend, the founder of Rooted Wealth Advisors, the repeat national champion, cattle showman, Zach Gray.
Been a few years, but yes, I am here.
Hey, once you win, ain't nobody can take it away from you, guy.
I guess that's well, we're not talking about cows, and we're here to talk about what?
You know what? I had a question the other day at an event about how we were different. And the lady's like, but I just got my taxes done. I'm good. And I almost had the same face, right? Like, yep. I'm not the financial advisor, but even I know that the taxes you do with your CPA every year are different than how we look and view taxes. So today I pose the question to you: what is the difference between tax planning and tax preparation?
Well, it's what everyone wanted to talk about. Their favorite topic, taxes. Not only is it the best day of the year, seconded maybe to your birthday. There is a huge difference, though, between tax planning and preparation. And we use that verbiage in our office because what we find is that too many times the conversation is only based around what happened, what's in the rear view. It is, hey, can I get all my statements and my 1099s and so on? Grab all that stuff. Maybe you're putting it in a box. You walk that box down to your CPA or your accounting team, and you're just preparing the documents. And I just had this conversation with a great doctor client of ours. And I said, you know, Mr. Client, I really want to have a conversation with you and your CPA, because what I find here is that we're caught with really only one tool, maybe two tools in the toolbox to be utilizing at this stage in the game. If we could have these conversations, maybe it starts in late summer, definitely into the fall months, it would be much better. And the reason we believe that is, and once again, Kent, you see this in our office, is that tail end of the year for us is a bit of a wild time because we're trying to make sure all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted. And the majority of tools that, once again, would be in the tax toolbox, they're going to need to be utilized before the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few pieces of low-hanging fruit. We can put some money into an IRA or a Roth IRA, maybe something like a SEP. We can manipulate our taxation just a little bit based on some of those tools. But I think it's really important for people to realize massive difference. The planning piece is thinking this through, looking out the windshield, if you will, what's coming, how can we help prepare for that, versus just waiting until after, really the shot clock, goes down to zero. And we now are left in a position where we're really backed into a corner on very few options can we use.
Right. And it's not like, at least to my understanding, it's not like the differences we're talking about is nickels and dimes, right? The difference between having the forethought to do it in advance to kind of top off some of these tax brackets, like I hear you talking about, they can make the difference between what are we talking? Tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially?
Yeah, depending on someone's situation, of course. And, many times we'll ask the question if we're speaking to a group, and we'll say, who thinks taxes are going to go up in the future? Raise your hand. And every hand goes up.
Almost every hand.
And then we simply state, hey, we're total equal opportunity here. Who thinks they're going to be going down, or down drastically in the future? And it's crickets. And it's been that way for years. Mm-hmm. And even when we know that taxes might even be seeing a slight reduction, like we saw with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we still realize that, hey, we've spent a ton of money. National debt is well over $30 trillion at this point. Interest rates are only going up based on what we've seen here in recent times from the feds. And it leads us down a path of saying, listen, I think taxes might be going up. So to the point to be made, yeah, what happens if we did some simple Roth conversions? Could that move the needle? What if you're in some of your highest income earning years and you want to be charitable? Is there a way that you could utilize something like a donor advised fund? Or if you're at the point of RMDs, something like a QCD, and could you utilize that to impact your own tax picture but could you also maybe use that for a positive impact to others, or to fulfill some of your dreams and goals of being of benefit, to whether that's a church or charity or a person. I think it's neat to kind of bring some of those pieces to the puzzle. And it's a reason that we've bolted on, a CPA team that we can go to for advice for our clients. Full disclaimer, I've got, a good number of letters behind my name on the business card, and it means that I know a fair amount about tax planning, especially in the retirement perspective. But what if we take a look at it with our accounting team? We have a tax attorney, same situation, on a retainer for us to bounce those more high-level questions of private insurance, land conservation easements. I mean, these are unique tools, but once again, from a planning perspective, what can we do to really help move the needle? And I think that is where many times advisors miss. And I'm not saying that we're perfect. I wish that we were perfect 100% of the time. But I will just say is at least opening the conversation of saying, hey, do you think taxes are going to go up in the future? Do you think your accounts might rebound and grow some in the future? Do you want to utilize some of these tools, especially to a married couple, while both of you are here on earth and married filing joint, because there might be a day that you're a single taxpayer. These are just massive conversations that I really hope all of you listeners out there get and understand, or at least bring this back to your advisor team. Of course, hey, the advisor team here at Rooted would love to have that conversation with you, but I think it's really important to bring that back to your advisor team, bring that back to your accountant, ask the hard questions of, hey, does this make sense for me? And I know I've covered a ton of different ideas, but it is something that's important for people to digest.
Well, and these tools, I mean, they can be legacy planning tools. They can be life-changing tools for the next generation. Something you mentioned earlier about going from married filing jointly to a single tax filer. I don't think a lot of people understand that their taxes are going to go up at that point. There was a couple in the room at our last event out in Denver. I think when you spoke on that, they kind of looked at each other and were like, are our taxes really going to go up when one of us passes? I think that comes as an added burden on top of what you're already dealing with.
Yeah, it's probably the number one tax jump that you're going to see if you happen to be married and you're watching this, you're listening to this. And we already know that taxes are set to go up here in just a few short years. That Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is going to sunset, going to go back to at least what we had, probably change the thresholds as well. Right now that there's a proposal sitting in Washington, it's kind of been sitting there on ice a bit now, especially that we have a kind of divided House and Senate. But nonetheless, it still is to take those rates up even higher than what we had prior to 2017. My point of this whole rant is that I believe the right, which wrote tax code, the left of which has a proposal sitting in Washington, they're both going to end up at the same end point, and that means taxes likely goes up at least some. And then yes, it is my personal belief, and I think you can back this up with data. We don't have enough time today, but we've changed things recently. That Secure Act 2.0 just came around, and these have pushed off these RMDs. They've changed the rules as well on what's that look like to give money to a beneficiary. I believe that the further that you push that back, and maybe there's something to be said about life expectancy, but the further you push it back, the bigger that those tax-deferred accounts are going to grow. And once again, if we've shortened the window of which you have to draw those dollars back out.
Yeah. Bigger slice of the pie for Uncle Sam.
Correct. I mean, let alone we know statistically, Kinch, you and your wife statistically won't pass away on the same day. There's an overwhelming chance that only one of you would survive the other. You'd be a widowed scenario. We see it all the time with our clients. And so, yeah, I think it does become an eye-opener when you start to go, wow, taxes are changing. Well, yeah, of course we would want our accounts to grow in size. Keep in mind, I say that there's three types of money: taxable, tax-deferred, tax-free. Taxable and tax-deferred happen to be the biggest buckets for the overwhelming majority of folks that we sit down with. And so, yes, it becomes the question of, wow, how does that look for the both of us? How does that look if it's just to my wife or just to my husband? What's that even look like if we give that to the kids? And so back to your point about legacy and understanding that, all critical conversations. I think our point here is just to drive home, you got to be thinking about that, because it can be, and it is, when we put together those plans, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference.
Yeah. Again, everybody's situation is completely different, but thanks for shedding the light today on how forward thinking can really benefit a lot of folks. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, that'll do it for us today on this episode of Digging In. Of course, Zach would love to sit down with you and talk taxes. That's his favorite subject. Well, maybe behind his kids.
One of them.
There you go. Feel free to call the office. It's 815-918-4727, and make sure you tell them you heard about them on the Digging In podcast. Until next time, keep digging in.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.